anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved Africans in the Virginia colony, the New York Times 1619 Project aims to reframe American history. And in our signature segment, musician Ben Folds shares the stories behind his songs. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wackenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. And by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Sreenivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. In what could be the largest demonstration yet, pro-democracy protesters filled the streets of Hong Kong today, marching through heavy rain towards government offices to call for reform. Citing previous violence, police initially banned the protesters from marching, but the rally, which had police approval, quickly overwhelmed the city's Victoria Park and spilled into the nearby streets. The march remained peaceful with no reports of clashes with police. A smaller group remained outside government offices late into the night. The organizers of the pro-democracy movement say there were 1.7 million protesters. Quartz reporter Mary Hui is in Hong Kong. She joins us now via Skype. Thanks. So this last week has seen some changes in how the protests are functioning. Where do the protesters go from here?
I think one of the main questions for protesters is, after last Sunday night's kind of aggressive step up in police action and then followed by the violent chaos at the airport, do the so-called kind of brave fighters on the front line of the protests take a step back? I think that's exactly what we saw today in Hong Kong. There's been a huge buildup of frustrations and things that people were angry about, including the lack of free and fair elections, the lack of proper democracy. And so those demands have actually become part of a broader set of 5 demands that people are now part of. And I think it reflects what a lot of Hong Kongers want.
On a day-to-day basis, the days that the protests aren't going, is Hong Kong running business as usual?
It's absolutely business as usual. You walk down to the train stations, it's people making their commutes to work. Sometimes it's a bit jarring even to think about what happened just the night before on the same streets, and then you go in on a Monday and it's business as usual.
All right, Quartz reporter Mary Hui joining us via Skype from Hong Kong tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
An affiliate of the Islamic State claimed responsibility for yesterday's attack in Kabul. It was the deadliest of the year. A suicide bomber detonated an explosives-filled vest, killing 63 and wounding nearly 200 more at a wedding celebration. As families buried the dead today, questions surrounding civilian security intensified. The bombing came as the U.S. and the Taliban are reportedly nearing a peace deal. But it's a conversation that does not include the Afghan government, ISIS groups, or other extremists. The U.S. wants the Taliban to ensure that Afghanistan will not become a launching pad for the Islamic State before any deal to end the 18-year-old war can be reached. Several migrants stranded on a charity rescue ship off the coast of Italy jumped overboard and attempted to swim to shore. They were later rescued and returned to the ship. The rescue ship, operated by the charity Open Arms, is anchored off Lampedusa, an island that lies between North Africa and Sicily. Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini refuses to let the ship dock. He claims the charity uses rescue boats to smuggle migrants from a base in Libya. The boat originally had 147 aboard, but Italian authorities did allow a number of minors and ill immigrants to come to shore yesterday. Spain and 5 other European countries are offering to take in those remaining on the ship. A leaked government report on Brexit published in the Sunday Times of London today says Britain will face a shortage of fuel, food, and medicine if it fails to make a deal on its scheduled exit from the European Union at the end of October. Compiled in secret, the government report dubbed Operation Yellowhammer lays out what the newspaper says are the most likely outcomes of a no-deal Brexit. In addition to shortages, the report predicts there will be delays in freight, as well as a return of a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is scheduled to travel to Germany and France this week in an effort to make a new deal on Brexit with the European Union. For the latest on the deadly suicide bombing in Afghanistan, visit pbs.org/newshour. Today, the New York Times published the print edition of the 1619 Project. The name marks this month's 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first enslaved people brought from Africa to the then Virginia colony. The Times says the project aims to reframe the country's history, understanding 1619 as our true founding, and placing the consequences of slavery and the contributions of Black Americans at the very center of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. The project is led by New York Times Magazine reporter Nicole Hannah-Jones, who is the author of the opening essay. She joins me now. This isn't just about sort of the kind of textbook ideas of what happened to slaves. You've got essays in here about healthcare, about geography, about sugar, about music, all of these different ripple effects that happen throughout the economy and really life here. You say in a sentence, you said, we would not be the United States were it not for slavery. This is kind of one of the original fibers that made this country.
Absolutely. One of the things we hear all the time is, well, that was in the past. Why do you have to keep talking about the past? Well, one, I think the past is clearly instructive for how we are right now. Mm-hmm. But also, the conceit of the magazine is that you can look at all of these modern phenomena that you think are unrelated to slavery at all, and we were going to show you how they are. And so we have a story in there about traffic patterns. We have a story about why we're the only Western industrial country without universal health care, about why Americans consume so much sugar, about capitalism, about democracy. We're really trying to change the way that Americans are thinking, that this was just a problem of the past that we've resolved, and show that it isn't. What many people don't know, and I point this out in my essay, is that one of the reasons we even decide to become a nation in the first place is over the issue of slavery. And had we not had slavery, we might be Canada. That one of the reasons that the founders wanted to break off from Britain is they were afraid that Britain was going to begin regulating slavery and maybe even moving towards abolishment. And we were making so much money off of slavery that the founders wanted to be able to continue it. We're not taught that when we're taught about our origin stories. And not knowing that then really does not allow us to grapple with the nation that we really are, and not just the nation that we're taught in kind of American mythology. And
that money ends up fueling so much more of what made this country.
Of course. It's not incidental that 10 of the first 12 presidents of the United States were slave owners. This is where, at that time, this kind of very burgeoning nation was getting so much of its wealth and its power. It's what allows this kind of ragged group of colonists to believe that they could defeat the most powerful empire in the world at that time. And it went everywhere. It was north and south. We talk about the Industrial Revolution. Where do Americans believe that the cotton that was being spun in those textile mills coming from? It was coming from enslaved people who were growing that cotton in the South. The rum industry, which was really, rum was the currency of the slave trade. That rum was being processed and sold in the United States. The banking industry that rises in New York City is rising largely to provide the mortgages and the insurance policies and to finance the slave trade. The shipbuilders, our northern shipbuilders, the people who are sending voyages to Africa to bring enslaved people here, are all in the north. So this was a truly national enterprise. But we prefer to think that it was just some backward Southerners, because that is the way that we can kind of deal with our fundamental paradox at our beginning, that we were a nation built on both the inalienable rights of man and also a nation built on bondage.
Yeah, and you even talk about Wall Street's name comes from something that most of us don't recognize.
Absolutely. So Wall Street is called Wall Street because it was on that wall that enslaved people were bought and sold. That's been completely erased from our national memory and completely erased from the way that we think about the North. At the time of the Civil War, New York City's mayor actually threatened to secede from the Union with the South because so much money was being made off of slave-produced cotton that was being exported out of New York City. It is that erasure, I think, that has prevented us from really grappling with our history and so much in modern society that we see that is still related to that.
One of the essays in here about healthcare, which is fascinating, is that some of the myths that started then are still perpetuated today in modern healthcare, and that there are still gross misunderstandings that could actually have very serious health consequences.
So Linda Villarosa has this compelling essay that talks about how during slavery, enslavers were using enslaved people to do these medical experiments, but also we were using medical technology to justify slavery by saying people of African descent don't feel pain the way that white people do, that they have thicker skin, and so you can beat them or torture them and it's not going to hurt as bad. Well, these are all justifications for slavery. But if you look at modern medical science and our understanding, they're still using these calculations that say, for instance, lung capacity was one of the things that Linda writes about, that Black people have worse lung capacity. And the reason enslavers said that was they said that working in the fields and doing this hard labor was good for Black people because it helped them increase their lung capacity. Well, what Linda points out is today, doctors and medical science are still accounting for what they think is a lessened lung capacity of Black Americans. And it's simply not true. But we've never purged ourselves of that false science that was used to justify racism.
You talked about how basically the Black American, or just the Black experience, has been inconvenient to the narrative of this nation in all of these different categories, that it's been something that we have struggled to deal with, but oftentimes just not dealt with it as a result, that it was thorny.
When you think about the story of who we are, that we are this country built on individual rights. We are the country where if you are coming from a place where you are not free, you can come to our shores and you can get freedom. Well, then you have Black people, and every time you look at Black Americans, you have to be reminded that there was 1/5 of our population who had no rights, no liberties, no freedom whatsoever. We are the constant reminder of really the lie at our origins, that while Thomas Jefferson was writing the Declaration of Independence, his enslaved brother-in-law was there to serve him and make sure that he's comfortable. So I think this explains a lot. The continued perception that Black people are a problem, that Black people are, as Abraham Lincoln said, a troublesome presence in American democracy, because every time you see us, you have to be reminded of our original sin. And no one wants to be reminded of sin. We're ashamed of sin.
Nicole Hannah-Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Singer-songwriter Ben Folds first came to prominence in the 1990s as the leader of the band Ben Folds 5, which, in keeping with the particular brand of humor that runs in and out of his work, had only 3 members. Now, Folds has added author to his resume, and he recently sat down with NewsHour Weekend's Tom Casciato to discuss his new memoir.
And so
you might have been able to predict Ben Folds at 52 if you had known Ben Folds at 2.
When I was 2 years old, I was listening to 8 hours of music a day.
Seriously?
Yes.
And what were the records? Do you remember what you were listening to?
Yeah, oh, I remember them. I remember Sam and Dave, Hold On, I'm Coming, I remember that one. Otis Redding, Little Richard records, which I loved. He was so off the hook and exploding with insanity. I was taken to a child psychologist about this. He came to the conclusion that I should be kept back in school, that I was slow. But I know that my mother says that she came back feeling like the doctor was wrong and that I was just creative.
His mom, Scotty, whose picture once graced the sleeve of a Ben Folds 5 single, was only 21 at the time, but she was old enough to be right about her son. It's all spelled out in Folds' new memoir, which he signed for fans before a recent show. It's called A Dream About Lightning Bugs, A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons. In it, he's generous with praise for those who inspired him during his North Carolina childhood.
You named your good teachers in your book.
Yes, because my good teachers changed my life.
And yet you write about being on the verge of being kicked out all the time, or
Yeah.
being a D student.
I was alternately awful and well ahead. I was crawling out the window, I was skipping school all the time, and skipped school in like 10th grade and came up to New York with my friend. I mean, it's dangerous. People like offering you drugs and taking you into strip clubs right in the middle of, it's kind of young for that. It's okay, you don't have to pay
For all that, his book offers fans no rock star tale of drugs and groupies, nor does it brim with intimate stories of his 4 marriages or his being the father of twins. Rather, it's about a wise guy kid with an ear for melody who brought a punk sensibility to the kind of group that had never had one, the Piano Trio. But this punk also wrote astute pop lyrics in the everyday language his fans could relate to.
It was important for me to strip away the formality of songs. Roses red, violets are blue. Yeah, girl, that stuff just gets in the way.
She's breaking up, drowning slowly.
Some of his songs are autobiographical.
My girlfriend and I, pregnant in high school, and we went and got an abortion. All by ourselves, we didn't tell adults, we were all alone. And I wrote a song about that later.
They call her name at 7:30. Pace around the parking lot. Then I walk down to buy her flowers.
That song was called Brick. It was the one that put Ben Folds 5 on the map in 1997. But we're getting ahead. For now, he had an education to complete. And while young Ben's academic record may have been spotty, his musical talent was never in doubt. He got a full scholarship to study percussion at the University of Miami.
I considered the school the doorway to the world where they made music. But I had a Southern accent. And at Miami, they were all New York kids. I was so intimidated by that. And then so I come in with this drum set, which I paid precisely $27 for. I saved up for over a summer, which is an old plywood kit that was falling apart. The other kids had really nice drum sets. Those things were horrifying to me. It was horrifying not to be dressed the right way, didn't have the right t-shirt, didn't have the right shoes. What I'm not so proud of is that I lost a scholarship because I got into something that could be described as a fight, but was more of me just getting myself beaten up really badly and going to the hospital all night.
A fellow student beat him up. Folds broke his hand on the wall trying to punch back. The next morning was his final exam.
And I'd been up all night. I'd been drunk the night I got dropped off in a police car. Blood still on me. And I remember going up to the instructor. I was like, could I take my test next week? He goes, no. You know, they made me play my major test for the year. Now with a broken hand, I knew I'd flunked the test. I knew by flunking the test I'd lost my scholarship. And I threw my drum set in the lake at the moment that I realized that I'd flunked the test. Kid drama, I was very dramatic. But I got applause for throwing it in the lake by all these kids who never gave me the time of day because suddenly I'd done something that was funny and cool.
Folds' memoir describes how cool was hard to come by back in North Carolina, where he got his first official gig, playing polkas in a German restaurant, for which he was required to dress the part.
For a kid like trying to look cool growing up, you know, like 18 years old by this time, maybe 19, and my little skinny legs sticking out of like legit German lederhosen playing beer barrel polka for old people, I wasn't getting laid that year.
The concept of cool
and
being cool or not being cool runs in and out of your book.
Yeah, in my era, in the 90s, being cool was maybe about being miserable. Being cool was maybe about a lot of dark things, not taking things too seriously.
Well, your song title, The Battle of Who Could Care Less.
Yeah. Who could care less? Which of you is more cool than the other because you have so much apathy?
You not hear me anymore. I know it's not your thing to care. I know it's cool to be so bored.
And at one point, you figured out that you really wanted to cultivate your own nerdiness.
Mm-hmm. When I was honest about my feelings about not being cool, that really seemed to resonate with people.
I was never cool in school.
And I think I cultivated that then because I realized, hey, I'm speaking for like 80, 90% of us who don't feel cool.
Besides offering insights into his work, the book charts Ben Folds' course through more than 2 decades of ups and downs in the music business, including his having produced an album for William Shatner of Star Trek fame. And, given that punk sensibility, his story features a reasonable amount of bad boy behavior along the way, like the time he was on Australia's Midday Show in 1997.
Very, very naive show, innocent, way behind the times. Didn't realize that we had dirty words all in the song, and we just cussed our way through the song. At the end of it, I threw my stool at the piano, and stool bits went everywhere. Looked very violent, but it was showbiz. If you ever YouTube it, it's hilarious, because I threw that stool, and then even the go-to commercial break music sounds like something from the 50s. It's like da 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 da, like it's just way out of time. But this was just shocking for the man whose piano it was, who happened to be the host of the show, and he was very upset.
There's 47,000 fantastic Australia groups out there trying so hard to get on, and we let them on because they're American, aren't they?
Later, says Folds, he became friendly with the man whose piano he assaulted.
You were not the same after that.
You know, one of the things my parents could have done, I was going to give them a little advice as a 52-year-old back to a 25-year-old father, maybe a little discipline, just a little bit.
For Ben Folds at 52, the onstage behavior is somewhat less raucous these days. Still performing before thousands, he's less likely to throw a stool than to conduct a sing-along. Either way, he's still making music his fans can relate to.
Finally tonight, a somber note from Iceland. Mourners have placed a commemorative plaque to mark the first glacier lost to climate change. It's a process captured in these NASA satellite images. The plaque notes the date and the current levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and reads, quote, "In the next 200 years, all our glaciers are expected to follow the same path. This monument is to acknowledge that we know what is happening and what needs to be done. Only you know if we did it." That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Sreenivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Bernard and Irene Schwartz, Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Rosalind P. Walter, in memory of George O'Neill, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. Corporate funding is provided by Mutual of America, designing customized individual and group retirement products. That's why we're your retirement company. Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Be more PBS.